Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, doing something a little bit different in this video. On this date in 1953, there was an incredible heat wave which brought temperatures over 100 degrees all the way up into Iowa and was 112 degrees at Llano, Texas. Instead of focusing on other people's junk science in this video, let's focus on some real science. September afternoon temperatures in the United States were generally much warmer prior to 1960 than they have been over the past 60 years. And the frequency of 90-degree days was also much higher in the United States prior to 60 years ago. The hottest September occurred 90 years ago when more than one-third of daily afternoon temperature readings in the United States were over 90 degrees. September temperatures in the United States have been generally much cooler over the past 60 years. And over the past decade, there's been a large excess of September snow cover in North America. This is because the freeze line has been moving further south during September, causing precipitation which formerly fell as rain to now fall as snow. Climate alarmists want you to believe that temperatures are controlled by carbon dioxide, but there's no evidence supporting that claim. As carbon dioxide levels have increased in the atmosphere, September afternoon temperatures in the United States have decreased. And likewise, the frequency of hot September afternoons in the United States has decreased sharply as carbon dioxide levels have increased. In order to understand what's really going on with the climate, we're now going to take a look at individual days during September, all 30 of them. This is a graph of September 1st afternoon temperatures in the United States since 1895. As you can see, September 1st temperatures in the United States were much warmer prior to 1960, and there was a very sharp drop-off from the late 50s until the mid-1960s. The pattern for September 2nd is similar, but the drop-off isn't quite as large as it was on September 1st. September 3rd temperature patterns are similar, but once again the drop-off isn't as large as it was on September 1st. By September 4th, we're seeing a different pattern. There's very little temperature change in the United States since 1895 on September 4th. Likewise, September 5th temperatures show almost no trend in the United States. September 6th temperatures show a slight downwards trend, but there's no drop-off after the year 1960 like there was earlier in the month. September 7th temperatures show almost no long-term trend or pattern. September 8th temperatures are similar again, except we start to see a downward trend after the year 1960. September 9th temperatures show a fairly strong downwards trend over the past 90 years, with last year being by far the coldest. September 9th last year was the coldest day on record that early in autumn here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We took a wonderful hike in the snow that day. September 10 temperatures again show a downwards trend over the past 90 years. September 11 temperatures also show a downwards trend over the past 90 years. But September 12th temperatures show almost no trend since the start of records in 1895. September 13th temperatures show a different pattern, a strong downwards trend from 1930 through the 1980s, but then the downwards trend stops. September 14th temperatures show a sharp downwards trend from the 1930s through the 1960s, but over the past 50 years there's been an upwards trend. Similar story for September 15th, and now we're starting to see that sharp drop in temperatures where they were much warmer prior to 60 years ago. September 17th again shows the same thing, much warmer temperatures prior to 60 years ago. Same story for September 18th. Prior to 60 years ago, temperatures tended to be much warmer. September 19th has a similar pattern, but it's not as pronounced. September 20th is similar, except we're starting to see a strong warming trend after the 1980s to the present. September 21st shows a strong cooling trend from the 1930s through the end of the 20th century and a sharp warming trend since then. September 22nd is similar, except the warming trend since the end of the 20th century isn't as pronounced. Same story with September 23rd. Notice now that the warmer temperatures were prior to the year 1940 rather than prior to the years 1960. September 24th shows a cooling trend through the 20th century and a strong warming trend since then. September 25th also shows a cooling trend through the 20th century, but not as great as September 24th. September 26th temperatures are quite different. There's almost no trend since the 19th century. September 27th temperatures show almost no trend. Same story with September 28th, except over the past 30 or 40 years there has been a warming trend. September 29th temperatures show almost no trend. And September 30th temperatures have hardly changed at all over the past 125 years. Let's go back and look at September 21st one more time. We see radically different temperature patterns over the last 125 years during different parts of the month. And we can see that adjacent years tend to have similar temperatures. September 21st temperatures tended to be fairly cold from the 1960s through the end of the 20th century. And September 21st temperatures tended to be very warm during the 1930s. So we can infer from this graph that temperatures on a particular day of the year have some sort of connection to adjacent years. And there's a simple explanation for why that's occurring. The Earth orbits around the Sun and travels about 1.6 million miles a day, or about 50 million miles during the month of September. On a given day of the month, the Earth is in approximately the same position relative to the Sun as it was a year earlier. But over long periods of time, the positions of the planets in the solar system change relative to the Earth, as does the Sun's magnetic field and the Earth's magnetic field. There's lots of things going on in the solar system which affects the Earth's temperature. Changes in the Sun's behavior as well as movement of the planets has a significant impact on the weather here on Earth. Something was going on prior to the year 1960 which generally made Septembers much warmer in the United States than they have been over the past 60 years. The patterns almost certainly have something to do with changes in the solar system. Carbon dioxide levels don't change much from day to day, but the position of the Earth relative to the Sun and the other planets does. This is very important information, but unfortunately government agencies tamper with the data and we lose critical information needed to understand science. This is the actual temperature record, and this is what it looks like after data tampering by NOAA. NOAA shows recent years as being the warmest on record, but the actual raw data shows that temperatures were much warmer prior to 60 years ago. Government agencies cooled temperatures prior to the year 1980 by almost 1.5 degrees and warm recent temperatures by about 0.5 degrees. This is about 2 degrees of data tampering, which completely destroys the science. This is the same graph with carbon dioxide along the x-axis instead of time, and you can see what they're doing. They're tampering with the data to make it appear like temperatures correlate with carbon dioxide, which isn't true, but that's the agenda they're pushing. If we had actual climate scientists in government, they would want to understand what causes these long-term changes in temperature. What's going on with daily temperature changes is very interesting. These people are killing science with the massive fraud they're committing. Toto, on the other hand, loves science, and he wants to understand what these changes in day-to-day temperature patterns are all about. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on junk science for the past 13 years. You can visit him, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at realclimatescience.com.